All right. Hey, Helen. I'm glad you're joining me today to discuss interviews. A couple weeks ago, I think like 2 weeks ago or something, we were discussing resumes. So I know people think it's a little ridiculous during a pandemic to be discussing these things, but honestly, I think if you have the time, you need to use it wisely and use it for something that can help you when the jobs open up. But I do think there are also a lot of jobs now in the medical sector as well. So yes. So that's why we're talking about resumes today, and we're going to be taking notes as well. So you can see my screen, Helen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. We'll give it like 2 more minutes for people to come on. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. It's getting warmer now. And it's kind of nice to be in quarantine because, much.
I'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I want to be on the beach.
Yeah. All right. Also, if you wanted to see our video on resumes, if you go to our tab on El Mahabba Center in Nashville, go to videos and you can find it. It's a very short, succinct video and really helpful information. So we'll start in like 1 more minute.
Sounds good.
Cool. And someone did bring up a good point last time about using templates. You can find templates on Microsoft Word for resumes, but I really actually like the ones in Google Drive. So I would recommend for people, especially if you have a Gmail, go on Google Drive, and you can go to the templates and find a really good resume template. So.
Or if you're like a college student that graduated, they also have templates like available for you. You just need to ask them. They'll like email them to you, or you can find
Oh,
them on.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start. So today we're talking about interviews, which is kind of the next stage after a resume is to be called in for an interview. So Helen, what are your tips for us?
I think the most basic tip is just look professional, show up because appearances do matter in these situations. Show up early, like 15 minutes or more. Not more, like that's too much. Like 15 to 10 minutes early, so they know that you're a person that's like on time. And what else do I
Yeah.
have?
I was told that actually if you're early, you're on time. And if you're on time, you're late. So always show up a little bit early. And especially looking professional is very important. So even setting up the outfit the night before, so that way you're not late and you're not overthinking it, is really helpful. So yeah, you never want to dress like too fancy or like too dressed down, but obviously it's better to be overdressed than underdressed. So, and dress for the job. So if you're applying for an engineering position, then dress as an engineer would going into the office. Or if you're applying to become a researcher at Vanderbilt, like dress for that position.
Also, bring copies of your resume and bring a notebook and pen. I think that looks like you're ready to take on the job. So you take notes. They see the type of person you are. You're organized, professional. Don't bring out your phone to take notes in the middle of an interview. That is a big no-no. You just don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maintain eye contact at all times. Look them in the eye. Don't be afraid to look them in the eye. Show them that you're confident. Sit up straight. Present yourself in a way that will make them want you on their team.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And also, try to figure out like what you assume the questions are going to be. It's really easy the night before an interview to kind of prepare. I know when I was at Vanderbilt, all these students would be like, I'm going to do a mock interview. I'm going to do a mock interview at the Career Center. And I'd be like, that's so dumb. Why would you do a mock interview? But I actually think it's really useful now. And so I do them with myself.
Yeah.
um, it's really important that you spend the night before kind of thinking of the questions, thinking of what stands out in your resume, what you assume they're going to ask you. For instance, if the job requires a language, they may ask you a question about like your language proficiency, or like ask you to prove your language proficiency. If the job is about like management, they're going to ask you about your management skills. Um, and don't always assume that the person interviewing you is the same person who contacted you, like read your resume, contacted you, and set up the interview. I have gone to an interview once where the person had no idea what was on my resume, and I had prepared for them to have looked at it already. So it was just very awkward. But yeah, so just prepare that someone may have not looked at it, and you're going to have to explain a few aspects of it. So yeah.
With
And
that,
oh yeah.
no, go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, and just like make it like a conversation. Be very chill about it. Um, be, I expect that most jobs want like a human. They want like a coworker. So a lot of the times when they're interviewing you, they want like someone who's personable. Like I can work with this person. So yeah, don't be too like posh posh. Like wow, look at me and my accomplishments, and don't be like too nervous. Yeah, like you want to be friendly, just like you were talking to like a friend. So
With that note, I've noticed a lot of people when they get nervous, they kind of talk like this. Talk, breathe. Just, you're gonna be fine. Try not to use filler words like just stay quiet,
mhm.
gather your thoughts and then talk. That just shows you're more thoughtful and professional. Be prepared with examples of your work, because like Lydia said, they haven't read your resume most of the time. They don't know what you do. Be prepared to show them that, demonstrate that for them, and have a list of references available with you when you show up to the interview, because they might ask you for that right there.
Yes. Um, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I even encourage the night before to review your resume. It sometimes helps even to have like a visual of it in your head, because you're going to be giving it out, or they're going to already have it. So it's really good to already know without looking at your resume what you're doing, instead of sitting there and being like, oh yeah, 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 in 2018, just be able to be like, here are my main talking points. And
Definitely.
it's also important to think of questions that you're going to ask them.
Yeah.
So they really like that, because again, it shows that you are a coworker, you're engaged, and you're interested in the work that they do. That you read the job description over, and that you know things about like on their website, etc. So prepare some questions like, what's the atmosphere like, or like what is it like working here? That's a really popular question, but like, what's your policy on sick leave, or um, yeah, what's the office like? I feel like that's always my go-to, is like, what's the atmosphere like? Because I want to work at somewhere where I like the coworkers and such. Or who will be my supervisor? Who will I be working with? What are kind of the connections in the office? What does everyone do? Especially if it's kind of a smaller office, you kind of want to be like, hey, can I get introduced to people and such? And sometimes they will if it's a smaller office. So be prepared for that as well, to kind of walk around and be told who everybody is. And it's a good opportunity, whether or not you get to the job, to network and to be very personable and be like, oh, hey, okay. Don't say, oh, hey, but hi, how are you? And know their name and such.
Definitely. With that being said, don't, like Lydia said, you read their job description, so don't be like, what will my tasks be? Because they're gonna be like, did you not read the job description? So don't ask these type of questions. They expect you to already know that. Don't speak negative of past employers ever. It just does not make you look good. Even if they were terrible, just don't do it. And after the interview, send thank you letters to every person that interviewed you. That is a big plus point for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't receive a call back by within 2 days, call them back. I've heard a lot of people, because I used to be like, no, I'm not calling them. If they want to call me, they'd call me.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of times that like the person that calls back actually is more likely to get the job. So call back within like 3, 5, 2 days in advance or something after that to thank them after all that interview stuff.
And I would also, one good question to ask is, when do I expect to hear back? Especially if it's kind of like a higher up position and they know that you're kind of highly qualified. So I wouldn't ask it if I'm like kind of at a lower position. So if like I'm a college student applying for like a library job, I wouldn't be like, when do I expect to hear back from you? You probably don't want to be that too posh, but like if it's like a really big position, um, you can, I think that's completely appropriate to ask. And they could tell you if it's a really big position that it may take a month because they want to really consider it. So expect that as well. So yeah, call back if they.
Don't get too desperate. Like no one wants someone who's desperate. Just
Yes.
be normal.
Yes.
And don't say I can handle any situation when they ask you about like how do you work under pressure, because it just shows like it's kind of like a lie. You're not a superhero. Like you can't handle every situation. Just be honest. Be yourself. Don't exaggerate the situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
let me see if I can spell exaggerate. I cannot.
Yeah, that word is always hard for me.
There we go. um, questions that you can expect that they will ask. They will always ask you, tell us about yourself to start off.
Don't
Don't.
question. Just don't.
Uh,
I'm like, I'm gonna wing it. I already know myself, and then I'm just like, I don't know.
yeah, that's what I always do. You know, people are like, who are you? And I'm like, my name is Lydia. And they're like, good. Yeah. So you want to prepare something like a minute because you don't want to drag on a story, like get started and be like, oh, I've worked in the nonprofit sector, and then go shh for a long time. Or when I was in college and I was studying to be a pharmacist, boom, and talk way too long. So you want to kind of make it very succinct, very short, but very powerful. So another thing to practice the night before, because you know that's going to be a question for sure. And for instance, if it's like a job where you work with immigrants, highlight maybe that you're an immigrant. Or if it's a job where you're going to be working closely with other coworkers, like team building, doing a lot of teamwork, you may want to highlight other jobs that you've done where you've had to work with large teams to accomplish something. Or if it's a job that's like about research, you want to highlight your research and not just talk about like your life as an immigrant, you know what I mean? And be like, my mom and dad came here, and you don't want to go there. Yeah, you want to be very succinct. Because remember, an interviews are not even long. I mean, they're just like 30 minutes, 45 minutes maximum, depending on the position you're applying to. So keep it very succinct, keep it very, because these people also have to go back to work. So just keep it very brief and like, here I am, and answer, and a lot of stereotypical questions are like, what are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? And tell me about this project that you worked on. Tell me about how you feel or your skills in this, like graphic design, or your skills in team building, or your skills in leadership, whatever. So they will ask you those types of questions about your skills, your weaknesses, your strengths. Yeah, but always prepare for the who are you question. That's the easy one to get out of the ballpark.
Also, never like if it's a new company that you've never heard of, if you never used their product, don't ever say that you never did. Make sure you act like you know everything about them. Don't act like you've never heard of them before, because that just you're not gonna get the job.
Yeah. Another common question that they do ask is, what will you provide for the job? So that's a really important one. Like, how do you feel you're going to fit in here? What skills do you bring? That's usually kind of their like final question. So also expect that, and try not to answer in a stereotypical way. Like, I don't know, like, I will bring more projects, or I will be hardworking. Like, kind of try to, because then you're kind of imagining how you're going to be working with your other coworkers. So they're also hardworking as well. And they're also working on projects very hard. So you want to feel like you're bringing something new to the table. Yeah. And I would strongly suggest that when they are speaking, that you listen. I know that seems like a weird one, but like I know when we're nervous, um, we tend to be like blah 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 when they're talking, and then they ask us a question, and then there's full awkward pause. So listen to what they're saying, react to what they're saying. So be like, yeah, I agree. You don't need to be a complete robot and be like, I have no opinion, just sitting across from you. So yeah. Another good question to ask them is about like the history of the company. Um, that's a really good one. And like maybe what are some of the cases? What is it? Yeah, I've said this. What is it like working here? It's a very stereotypical question. Yeah. I think we've covered everything. Oh, you wanted to speak about salaries, right?
Yes. So a number one thing that I never like really thought about is like negotiating. I don't know why everyone gets nervous at that point, and it's okay to negotiate. They expect you to negotiate, especially women. I don't know why. It's like known women just don't negotiate. Negotiate. They expect you to do that. With negotiating, never bring it up on your own. Wait till they bring it up. And when they bring it up and they ask you, what do you expect? You never give them a number until they give you a number for a couple of reasons, because you can set yourself off like very much lower than what they would be willing to offer you. So when they ask you, what do you expect? Tell them, what do you think this job deserves or how much it should get paid? The second thing is know your value, of course. Know what you're bringing, know what you offer. Bring in all evidence to prove that. Like, for example, if you work for this company, tell them, I work for this company and I brought this much profit in, or I worked for this company and I saved this much on that. Another point is do your market research. Know what your position is, like if you're a beginner, expert, whatever. Know what it's like, what is the prices or the ranges of numbers that you're supposed to get in that job. And when they don't give them a range, like after they give you a set number and they're like, what do you expect? Don't be like, oh, between like 35 and like, don't say that. Give them a straight number because they will settle for the lower number. What else? Use leverage. For example, if you're really good and you got your stuff together and you have multiple offers and you really want to work for that company, tell them, yeah, I have an offer from this company. Like, use that to your advantage. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Yeah, be humble and polite. Be confident.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what I have. Don't be afraid to negotiate. You'll be fine.
Yeah, a lot of good tips. So basically,
sorry, I cut you. But be reasonable, because I've seen some people that are really unreasonable with their negotiating. Just pick a number, be reasonable with it. Set your expectations, you know, like have a number that you realistically want, have a number that like if they accept it, that would be awesome. Negotiate within these ranges, but don't give them a range. Give them a specific number so they can work around that number with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no. And also expect that you should also ask about your benefits coming in and how that affects your salary. So like healthcare, etc. And I know that there are a lot of companies that only offer healthcare after you've been there for 3 months or like a certain period of time, so that they can ensure that you
can also negotiate some benefits to you, like vacation days or sick days, leaves. It depends.
Yeah. So also keep in mind benefits like healthcare, vacation days. Yeah. Awesome. So just to review, always look professional, prepare the night before, prepare what you're going to say, prepare the questions you're going to ask them, prepare looking at your resumes so you're a lot less nervous about, you know, the whole process. Definitely bring a notebook and a pen so that it's a two-way conversation and you're not just showing up and, being like, let me introduce you to myself type of attitude. Don't be nervous, breathe. They already called you in, so they already like you. So you're a potential. Be prepared with examples from your work and have references ready. Bring copies of your resume. Don't ask questions that the job description can answer. So do your research beforehand. And don't speak negatively of past employers. It really doesn't look good. So I think that's a really good point that you brought up, Helen. Always say thank you by email, I guess now is the way, or you can um, after 2 days call them back, and also thank them and also ask about the process, and definitely be honest and don't exaggerate. um, I think the last thing I'll say is that, like, when you go into an interview, also keep in mind that it's not just them interviewing you, but you interviewing them. So keep in mind that there may be places that you interview at and that you may not feel comfortable in, or that you may feel like, I would not get along with people here, or like the job description that they put online is not what I'm actually going to be doing here, as it seems. So be willing to call that out. Be willing to be like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a fit, not at the interview, but like later, respectfully be able to decline. So be aware of that as well. And I think being conscious of that also helps you when you're interviewing to feel like, you know, this is about me as well. Like, I bring so much to the table and I also need to know where I'm headed. Yeah.
Know your worth and don't sell yourself off short. That's
Yeah.
the best tip.
Yes. Yeah. Confidence speaks volumes. Awesome. Cool. I don't know what our next topic will be for next month, but we will let y'all know. If you have any suggestions, if any recent graduates have any suggestions for what they want to hear, um, about like even job searches during the pandemic, we could also do something like that. Yeah. So thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll see everybody in a month.
Bye.